the birth of a new way on planet Earth. We welcome this new day on planet Earth. It's the birth of a new way on planet Earth. We welcome this new day on planet Earth. If I commit to make a shift, will you commit to give your gift? If we be the change that we wanna see, the shift comes down to you and me. It's the birth of a new way on planet Earth. We welcome this new day on planet Earth.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Practical Spiritual Advice, which is a ride. And it is done by Infinite You, which is me, which is you, which is we. You know, this is a collective journey that we are on, and I want to introduce myself. If you are new here, my name is Harold Hoenow. I am the owner and founder of Infinite You Wellness Plus Synergy, and your host for Practical Spiritual Advice by Infinite You, which is you, which is we, which is me and you, and all that other great stuff. So, how's everyone doing? I hope y'all are managing this monumental, soul experiment with ease and grace. And I want to offer, some I want to give y'all something today. I really want to gift the world some information that could save them, a few 100 other lifetimes, if you will. And for those that know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. We're talking about a large 26,000 year cycle that your soul can get wrapped up in and redo a large amount of learning again. Whether that's true or not, that's up for debate, but that's not what this podcast is for. So let's roll with it, and let's make sure that we hark the herald, as they say in the song, which means pay close attention to the messenger. So here is your cosmic news for this part of the ascension process, and we are at the stage of all the gatekeepers are now being exposed. They're being exposed. Who is a gatekeeper? What is a gatekeeper? And what is this like? What is a soul gatekeeper? What's this gatekeeper that you could find yourself getting into the mix with along your spiritual journey? And I'll explain what this gatekeeper may look like in the real form, in the practical sense of what's going on here. And it may not be what you think right now. And so I want you to keep your mind open, keep your heart open, and just take in some of this cosmic information of what the gatekeepers of this day and age look like, and what they've looked like before too. All right. So what we find ourselves in is, we're playing with spirals. We're playing with evolution. We're playing with creation. And along the path of creation, you reach a threshold of, it's like the caterpillar inside of the cocoon. You reach this threshold of, because look, the caterpillar just on its own went through a bunch of evolutions, went through a bunch of changes, and it grew up, and it went through all these different ways of gaining awareness, until it reached a threshold of another cosmic experience, just kind of like blossoming into something that's just huge. It's monumental, right? So what is that threshold? What does that look like? Oh, sorry. I'm recording over here on my Zoom out. Sorry, my thing needs to... Okay. Excuse for my podcast listeners, bear with me for just a second. I'm going to fix something real quick and be right back. Okay, technical what the? No. Oh my gosh, here we go again. Technical difficulties once more. Okay, I apologize because y'all don't know, but that took me like a few minutes to handle this camera situation. All right. So we were talking about gatekeepers, right? So gatekeepers. Where are the gatekeepers? Who are the gatekeepers? This may this may trigger some people. I don't mind triggering anybody. I just don't want it to get it twisted, because the gatekeepers are, for a big majority, those are your philosophers. Yep. Your philosophers, the philosophers that have not walked the path, the philosophers that are well studied, well conversed, a lot of conversations about varied topics, right? Through Rosicrucian, through, Zoroastrianism, Kabbalah, Christianity, Catholicism, Islam, Buddhism, Hindu, like all the isms and all the religions and all the different things. I have a bunch of books, right? There's a ton of books. There's a lot of reads to be read about these things. And so when you walk down this path and you start to encounter a contour that would lead you to a guide or a mystic or a sage or a way shower, or, one of these people that would be there with books under their belt, thousands of books, hundreds of books, all read, that have to do with all the different religions and all the different stories and all the things that you could ever imagine. It's just a bunch of information that they have, and they sound extremely knowledgeable. And it's not someone that you really want to go up against, because you come in as this person that just has anecdotal information about a spiritual awakening that is just your journey, and it's the little bits of information from here and there, and you're a montage, you're a collage of information and data sets that incorporate a lot of these, teachers, a lot of these gatekeepers, a lot of the information that they have. And, I say this, just like every other podcast through Practical Spiritual Advice by Infinite You, it's a story. And the parts of my story are, in this social media age, this age of information, you can stumble into online groups and forums and rooms that contain well-versed people that have a ton of information gathered from a lot of books, and, they do a really good job of memorizing things and making some really great correlations between different aspects, different perspectives of different religions and the isms and all that, right? And so, we find these people at the, almost at the end of our own personal understanding of the God within us, the guru within, the sage, the mystic, the way shower. Most of us, as we go through this process, begin our own path of enlightening others through inspiration or products or services or, sets of information and what we want to put out into the world. It's not just for us, it's to help us, it's to come through us. And so, we're always looking, I was going to say hunting, but it's not necessarily hunting, even though it may feel like a hunt. We may walk out into this world and feel like we're on the prowl, that we are searching for something and we don't know what it is. So, you're looking for trails to lead you into a direction of like that thirst being quenched, that hunger being taken care of. Because you're hangry all the time, you're looking for something and you don't even know what it is. Imagine the soul's journey to be looking for that thing that is them, so it doesn't feel like it's ever far away, but you can't ever find it because you never even knew exactly what you were looking for. What a plight to be in. What a journey that would, again, lead you to a guru, a mystic, a sage, someone that has traveled some of these paths to go and take the journeys with Mother Ayahuasca and, all the different things, right? To journey, it's not that they haven't put in some of the work, a lot of the work that they put in, you would see as things that you would want to do and just didn't have the opportunity to do that, or weren't raised in the environment to allow that type of information and that type of experience to be had. And so we turn towards these people that have walked these paths that we long for, that we wish were part of our journey. And, we look up to them. And I bet if you rewound some of their lives and took them back to that point of first experiencing these things, they'd be like a little baby, in the fetal position, just like the person that didn't have all those crazy experiences. And, so it would look like a master and a student. And that, that's the game, right? You evolve, you come from being a student and the thirst for knowledge, for now the thirst for giving the knowledge, for giving of those fruits that you've gone out and foraged and hunted and gathered, all that information. You become that sage. And this is where the gatekeeping can put you. It's in the state of just giving information. What does that mean? What does that do? Just, a lot of information about all this different stuff. That makes it all makes sense. But then once you leave the sage, or if you become the sage and you leave your student, what's your walk when the ritual is done? What is your day-to-day, like, what are you walking and breathing? A lot of us in the spiritual age space, we like to say we're meditating throughout the whole process, and, that we walk the walk. But, for those that have listened here before and know who and what my mission and, my claim to fame, what I claim to be, is this herald. And, Hermes was a herald, and some can see Hermes as a gatekeeper also. I definitely have seen how this ancient hermetics can lead people up to the head, and all this really high, very dense, still up there, but dense information about all the different things that would put all the different sages and mystics from before into a place of like, wow, look, it all makes sense because that one went there and then that one, da 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 da, and all the things. But again, what is that going to do? What is all that going to do? What is it going to do? What were they even saying? What were they talking about? And this is where I get into these philosophers, and knowing about all this stuff is the final boss in this game of life, in this human evolution of where are we going now? And what is this dream that I'm dreaming of? Is it the dream to know everything? Like, is that really what I want? Or do I want to just do what I want to do when I want to do it, and not be held back to be as creative and with a lack of resources to do that? And, that includes like freedom of movement, like, so we can get in it's so many things, but freedom of movement, just that, right? So what are we looking for? Freedom of movement. What does that mean? First, it's eating healthy so that your bodies aren't stiff and sore, so you can move. Okay, one thing, like physical movement. Okay, and even getting dialed into that, like the freedom of movement of my bowels, right? Just to go TMI, of like my inner workings, like is my spleen doing what it needs to, and my gallbladder, and like my liver, and my lungs, and heart, and brain, and all the things, are they all working together? And freedom of movement in the way that they were naturally guided to do. And then me as a human, am I free to move about? And, for the most part in the United States, it is a yes. And for a lot of parts, it is a no. I just can't go out into any piece of land out in the hill country and just go and set up camp. It has to be like a certain piece of land. And so that's one piece of like freedom of movement. And also like having to pay rent and having to be held down into a home that needs to be taken care of, and the responsibility of children. And, is there all these different freedoms of movement, right? And so, okay, so freedom of movement, that would be a really big like thing if we really look at it. And then freedom of resources, of the resources needed to do what we need to do when we need to do it. And so if we didn't have money as this piece of paper or this digital currency in the way of having the wood to build, the machinery to do it, to cut it, the hardware to fasten everything together, there's stores with more than enough, right? And then there's buildings that are coming down, old construction that can be repurposed, the wood and some of the hardware, and it's all these things. So what the fuck am I talking about? What are we talking about here? What are those gatekeepers? Are they giving you any of the information that's actually going to gain you freedom of movement? I mean, there is part of it that is this, I manifest by this awareness, by this knowing, and, I can create worlds like that. And yes, abso-freaking-lutely. Of course you can. Of course you can. But, how many of y'all are actually doing that? From the state of just like, I didn't do anything and I just sat here and like everything came to me, and all my dreams and desires are right in front of me right now, and I'm living in them. They're not just choices, but they're the embodiment of everything that I've dreamed of. I'm actually walking in it right now, and I didn't do anything to get there, right? Like I didn't pick up a phone, I didn't plan anything. It was all just handed to me. I walked outside my house and the real estate agent said, here, you own this plus all the 100 acres around it, and all the things, right? So show me the people that have done that. And I mean, I'd like to have a really cool, deep conversation with them about what their process is and, whatnot. But for the masses, and I'm talking about even the sleepy weepy folks, right? The zombies, the muggles, the ones that are like in the rat race and love the rat race and honor the rat race and don't want to let go of the rat race. Those people too. How can they see the manifestations of their dreams, their heart's desires and stuff like that? How can they gain this information of ancient hermetics to embody what that is in the physical world? And this is where it's so funny to me, because in hermetics and all the religions and all the things, there's like this, they talk about it, but then the embodiment of it is like not exactly exemplified in what we see in these organizations. And it would be the giving back, it would be the golden rule, it would be the building a garden, it would be like, how do you build the heaven on earth, or are you just going to wish it and wait for someone to do it for you? What are those? What does that look like, and who's out there doing it? And a lot of times you'll find that the organizations out there doing it are not actually religious or into any isms or anything. And, in order for them to even be the organization that they are, 9 times out of 10, they can't even claim to do that type of stuff. These are organizations that put gardens in schools and communities and help and teach like regenerative practices in the form of like that food that keeps you healthy so that you can move freely because your body is nice and loose because it has all the nutrients and everything that it needs. It's the River Aid SAs of the world, the organizations that are out there tending and stewarding our planet, and seeing the signs of like the stresses. Like I drive around my city, San Antonio, all the time, and I see trash on the side of the road, and it's just and next to homeless encampments and like all kinds of things, and I'm just like, oh man, we're all kind of tied down, and this is my own freedom. That's my own freedom, where I'm like, feeling the stresses of not being free enough to have the resources to say, all right, cool, next weekend we're going to raise money and get all the equipment and all the people to come in, and we're going to, pay for these people to get homes, and we're going to clean up the trash that's all left here by the homeless encampment, right? And then there's like all the other things that I'm doing. So that freedom to multiply myself. But it's these gatekeepers that we find that will put us into this really heady information that is so intriguing, it's so mystifying, it's so alluring that we stay there, and it's like you get spun up like a top into the heavens, and you have no ground to walk on. And so at some point in time, you're really, I mean, I'm sorry, but I've been on this spiritual awakening journey for quite some time, and I've maneuvered through. There's quite amazing things, So to some frankly some really astounding experiences, and have tried to beat the drum of some of these experiences, almost like riding the white dragon. That it's like a drug addict. That first time that you got that extreme high on coke or heroin or whatever it was, where you're like, whoa, I'm chasing that again. That can happen in this space too, where you go out and you build something, whether it's a book or a podcast or a YouTube or, a project to clean up the rivers, or a project to put gardens in schools and all these things. And then, once you've, have it established and it's almost like autonomous, or it has enough people within the organization that help to keep it thriving, where without you, like that's a beautiful thing, first of all. But we get to a point as humans, even to just like, wow, I built that, and now it's like helping so many children and so many people, and it's doing so much, and I'm ready to move on to something else. And these bosses, these philosophers, these gatekeepers, they're not a lot of times they're not talking about putting a garden in your backyard, and how do you harvest rainwater, and what is the practical application of what is heaven on earth? What does it look like to you? This is the drum I'll beat until we're there. And, even when we're there, I'm going to beat it still, because we are there. This is heaven on earth now. And, the most exciting part of this ride is having so many different opportunities to shift and maneuver and not be bored with this ascension process. I've been able to do so many different things. Like right now, I'm doing a podcast. I'm going to post some content. I'm making my organite pendants, right? We just moved. I will host events now. We travel to transformational festivals to events sometimes, and sometimes just to go hang out with our tribe and our community and dance under the stars barefoot on the ground and know that it's an activation. Sometimes we go swim in the river. Sometimes we go through caves and make sure we deposit sacred stones in sacred places, right? Like what a wonderful life. I'm not going to lie. Like let's say I had it like 14, almost 15 years ago. I could have never imagined this type of life and this opportunity to be a part of the shift for humanity, and actually to be the herald. Like there's many people with messages, and I don't know if I said this on the last episode, because I know I had, this is like, I doubt my friend Sage is ever going to see this or listen to this. But if she does, hey, Sage, what's up? Because hopefully by the time she hears this, she'll be like, yeah, I get it now. But some people are very afraid of coming out into the real world. And, maybe that's not the word that would have her feel good, because maybe she says she's not afraid, and, maybe they're just not ready for her or whatever. But at the end of the day, if you don't make a move to an uncomfortable place, it feels like you're a little scared cat. No, I'm just messing with you. But it's the people that I find in these digital spaces that find philosophers and find a lot of really good talk, and, it makes a lot of sense. And you find a few people in this digital space, and then you want to live there and think that that's going to be like the world that has you feeling all ooey and gooey inside. And that would grow old fast. And I think some people are clinging on to something that no longer exists. Like that chasing that drug, chasing that first high of what TikTok was on your first, account. And, you know, the first time that y'all all met each other and they heard your story and they said, "Ooh, that makes me feel all goo wee." And you're like, "Ooh, your story resonates with mine too." And y'all have made it past that little fluffy stage of getting to know each other, and now y'all really get to know each other, and y'all start getting upset with each other, and y'all start bothering each other, and sometimes y'all just talk over each other. And and I'm really talking about TikTok. I'm really talking about TikTok, because that is not a place for coherent conversation. That's a place for like unruly, childlike, how do you even know if they're the people that are sitting there not talking on your panel or even listening? How many of them are like tending to something else and didn't hear a word? It's like, I don't know. You don't see a real person. You see an icon, a little digital avatar. But this is the place where philosophers live. TikTok is a place where philosophers live. It is a place where talk lives. It's a TikToker. It's a place where an illusion of time has taken hold, and people have found other people in this illusion of time and information that makes them feel all ooey and gooey inside. And then sometimes that ooey and gooey can start feeling like a real hot, sticky mess, and you found yourself in some shit you never wanted to be in for way longer than you ever wanted to dabble in that. And, and I say that because, shit, I'm watching it. I'm watching people just live in that space and, begging for something more, but not doing anything about it, and just still clinging on to the thing that gave them the first high on that app to begin with. So I didn't come on here to rant and complain about TikTok. To me, what TikTok has shown me is it's a place where I can read, more or less like what is happening in the mass consciousness of people that are on the edge of desiring this awakening to transpire, right? They see it, they know it, they believe it, we're all playing a part in it. I'm not going to diminish anybody's part in it, no matter where you are. If you're stuck in the virtual world and you're doing things there, and that's like the calling for you at that time, then that's what it is. I'm not going to take that away from you. But there is an evolution, and you never get stuck anywhere, and it's a spiral, and you're not going to stay there forever. And TikTok and heaven on earth, it's not synonymous. It's not the same thing. There's no TikTok on heaven, in heaven. There's conscious communications, telepathy, like there's no place to escape in the virtual world because your real world sucks. Like that doesn't make sense to coexist. So, that's a place for philosophers. It's a place for talking. This is a place for talking. Y'all are just listening to me. Why don't y'all get up out of this app and go find a place to volunteer? My only reason that I don't even want to do this. I don't. I really don't. I'd rather have real deep, meaningful conversations one-on-one, or with a small group of people, making them laugh and like looking in the eyes and like giggling like children and crying like babies and doing all the things face to face in the real world, like, forevermore, to my heart's content, and then be able to retreat when I want to and hermit up and go inside my home, my off-grid home, and go tend to my garden and my children, my creations, and look at the land that I've also curated with my people, and look at them from afar and watch them, play and have fun with their children. And I want to see my tribe. Like I have a vision of where I want to go, and it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like, I'm striving to get anywhere when I get there, when I'm in this place that I've created. I see a lot of play. I see a lot of freedom of movement. All the things that I talked about earlier, I see that in this reality that I've been, dreaming and discussing in small groups. Social media doesn't get the full game on here. There's no way that y'all can right now. Not with the way that it's built. You're only built to take so much information in at a time. The long form content is it should make a resurgence. You should be able to sit through and listen to someone for 30 plus minutes and take the information and, without having a bunch of cartoon characters and pictures and graphs and everything. You should be able to connect with someone in the heart space and, feel some extrasensory things happening with your mind and your body and how your higher self is communicating to you through me. And if you haven't taken the steps to get out into your real world and done real things like clean up a neighborhood, I said this till I'm blue in the face. And you know what? I'm going to keep saying it till I'm blue in the face. Go clean up a river. Go clean up a park. Go build a garden. Go teach some children. Go start a local meditation in a park. Like, that's part of it too, right? It's not just like getting dirty and doing things like that. Cause sometimes you go out in the morning till afternoon to go help and lead like a guided meditation with like your one little sound bowl and stuff. I did that, right? I did that. Little bitty sound bowl. And it was cheap from Amazon, probably like less than $20. And I'm out there on top, like you do things. And I was even in the news, like, hey, and people found me like, oh shit, you came to my thing. Oh, who put it in the news? Didn't even know who put it in the newspaper. Right. And so there's all these little things that we can do to amount to very big monumental things. And I'm prompting the world, I'm prompting everyone to bust through the gatekeepers of the philosophy of what all this information means and just fucking do what it takes to get it done. What the heaven does heaven on earth look like to you? Like, define, what does that really look like to you? Human person. Whatever what are you going to do about it? This is a worldwide challenge. I challenge you. I triple dog dare you. I put a cherry on top. Like, what does it need to be for you to be that change? And if I'm speaking to you and you're that person that's like, I'm disabled, I can't do anything, pick up a phone and look up organizations, say, hey, I'm disabled, but I want to help. I want to see gardens in schools. I want to see the policies change. I want to help in whatever way I can. How can I help? I bet they'll put you to work. They'll find something for you, right? So no more gatekeepers. No more taking to the top just so you can fizzle out to fall to the bottom and do it all over again. What this is like, it's a spiral that takes you up. And if you do it at the correct angle, it grabs hold of that information and then it starts to bring it back down. And then you complete this like toroidal field of like the top and the bottom. If you flipped it over, you'd have no idea which is which. It's like up and down and down and up. And it's this whole thing moving and mixing and spiraling energy throughout it. And so that's what we're doing is we're taking this information, all these ancient hermetics and all the philosophy and all that stuff, and you're embodying it through the way that you act and be in this world. So that should take you to a place once you get to the top, you meet that being, that philosopher, that one that's giving you all this extra information. And then you can sit there for a little while, as long as, you get your full, and, I implore each and every human, every person out there, just don't get stuck there. It's not going to be fun. You're going to fall flat on your face. You're going to be like, oh, I'm all up in the head. And you're going to have this big old head with all this information trying to put it on everyone and nobody's taking it. So they just throw it back onto you, but with a little bit of extra of their shit because you shouldn't have thrown it on their shit to begin with because they didn't ask for it, right? So don't be that kind of philosopher, that kind of sage or mystic. Not everybody wants the information that you have. We all run into that. And then again, you'll get shit thrown on top and you'll walk around with this big old head. And if you lead too much with the head, you're going to fall flat on your face. So the idea is take it in, embody it through the soles of your feet, through your heart in the center, and hold it right there in the center and let it emanate out from you and let it be grounded. Let it be, bonded with this place. Let it be in communion with Gaia. Right? The idea is to commune with her, not to levitate and be a balloon and never touch her. and be this high flyer with all this information. And it's like, I'm on cloud 9. Because I guarantee you won't be there for long if you're just a philosopher. Some of those philosophers out here in the world have the roughest times in life because they're so disembodied. So disembodied. It's very difficult for many philosophers that have been in the game for so long to actually be very grounded in what they're doing. And so if you're one of those, this may be triggering you quite a bit, or hopefully you sit in a place where you've taken many deep breaths and you see what I'm speaking of, and you are heeding the Herald's message from the heart of the Herald to, become that which you wish to see. And if you want to see a bunch of people just talking on the side of the road while they throw their trash out the car, and the philosophers are too busy talking that they don't know that there's trash that's piled up around their feet, and that there's maggots climbing up their shoes, and that their children are pulling on their coattails because they need to feed them. So we don't want philosophers like that. We want embodied, right? We want embodiment. We want that information, that golden wisdom to come down and to activate this planet. So, I don't know what we're going to call this episode. Maybe Final Boss. I don't know. No more gatekeepers. Maybe that. No more gatekeepers. All right. So in my time, today is 8/5/2025 and it is 3:33 p.m. And with that, I'm going to bid y'all adieu and love always in all ways. Until next time. Peace.
It's the birth of a new way on planet Earth. We welcome this new day on planet Earth. It's the birth of a new way on planet Earth. We welcome this new day on planet Earth. If I commit to make a shift, will you commit to give your gift? If we be the change that we wanna see, the shift comes down to you and me. It's the birth of a new